Prime Minister Boris Johnson of the UK has apologised but refuses to stand down as the Sue Gray report into Partygate has finally been released. The heavily redacted report on the lockdown parties held at Downing Street confirmed police are investigating a dozen different events. Our US correspondent Annalise Nielsen has spent the last week or so at Downing Street and joins us live now to talk us through it. Annalise, can you bring us up to speed with what we've learned?
Well, Pete, some of the most interesting stuff is what's not included in this report. As you mentioned, this is the redacted report, and much of that is because of this investigation by Metropolitan Police. And so what's been released today has been called an update by Sue Gray, but she acknowledged in the report that there's been so much public pressure about what they wanted to know, what the public wanted to know, that they have released this today. What we've learned is there's at least 16 different parties being investigated, 12 by police and 4 were covered by this report. Now, the 12 parties under police investigation, 3 of those were reportedly attended by Boris Johnson, and one of those parties was allegedly held at his flat. And so that was the question he faced over and over again about in question time in Parliament today. How did you not know that this was a party when you attended it yourself? Will you confirm you attended? Boris Johnson would not. The findings of this report say some of the behaviour surrounding these gatherings is difficult to justify. It goes on, some of the behaviour is surrounding these gatherings is difficult to justify. As I said, at least some of the gatherings in questions represent a serious failure to observe not just the high standards expected of those working at the heart of the government, but also the standards expected of the entire British population at the time. So that language is quite scathing. It also commented on the culture, saying some staff wanted to raise concerns about behaviour they witnessed at work, but sometimes felt unable to. And there was a failure of leadership and judgment by different parts of Number 10 and the Cabinet Office at different times. So it doesn't sound like the most pointed language, but in the context of a civil service report, that is quite significant. Boris Johnson faced a very tough time in Parliament when he made his statement. He did apologise, but he's refused to say he will stand down. He's instead said that he's going to look at some of these recommendations about reforming the culture.
I get it, and I will fix it. And I want to say, to the people of this country, I know what the issue is. Yes, Mr. Speaker, yes. It's whether this government can be trusted to deliver. And I say, Mr. Speaker, yes, we can be trusted. Yes, we can be trusted to deliver.
Now, Pete, there's 2 key issues that Boris Johnson's facing now, the opposition and his own party. But the opposition was pointing to the fact that, as I said, he allegedly attended one of these parties, but also he made previous representations to Parliament that he didn't know about them. So if he attended them, that doesn't make any sense. He's also set to be interviewed by police as part of their investigation. And so Labor has used these few different factors to say that he should stand down.
He's finally fallen back on his usual excuse. Yeah. It's everybody's fault but his. Yeah. They go, he stays. Yeah. Even now, he is hiding behind a police investigation into criminality, into his home and his office.
But, Pete, one of the reasons this report was so important was because so many of his colleagues and the Conservatives have said that they were waiting for this to decide whether they would put in a letter of no confidence against the leader. They only need 15% of the Tories in Parliament now to do that. And so the question is, can he rally them tonight? He's understood to be meeting with his entire party, both the Cabinet and those backbenchers as well. But leading the charge against him is a familiar face.
The COVID regulations impose significant restrictions on the freedoms of members of the public. They had a right to expect their Prime Minister to have read the rules, to understand the meaning of the rules, and indeed those around him to have done so too, and to set an example in following those rules. What the Gray report does show is that Number 10 Downing Street was not observing the regulations they had imposed on members of the public. So either my right honourable friend had not read the rules, or didn't understand what they meant, and others around him, or they didn't think the rules applied to Number 10. Which was it?
So the other question that kept coming up, when will we see the full report? We don't know yet. There's been a statement put out saying that Boris Johnson would after the police investigations concluded, but it's completely up to him at this point. A lot of that evidence from the investigation, though, has been handed over to the Metropolitan Police, at least 300 photographs. And this is going to be a long-running investigation, considering there's 12 different parties that they're looking at and potentially the questioning of the Prime Minister himself.
OK, plenty in that. Annalise Nielsen, thank you.